We're continuing to learn the Maimer V'Salachti B'Tוככם that the Rebbe said by the Farbrengen of Shabbos Parshas Bechukoisai Mevorchim Sivan Tavshin Yud Aleph. In the Maimer up until now, we learned that the word V'Salachti means to go, but it doesn't only mean to go one direction, but that would be V'Holachti, going from one place to the other. V'Salachti is going and being able to also return. That which is known in Chassidus as Oir Yashar and Oir Chayzer, the light, the direct light that comes from above. The Oir Chayzer is the reflecting light that returns, bounces back from below and goes up. And this is two types of going, from above downwards and from down upwards. Both going means the concept of going. It's not called going unless I'm going beyond my limitations. If I'm just going as far as I was able to go up until now, I'm going a little further, that's not considered to be true going. Going means I'm going out of myself. But there's two ways of doing it, and like the analogy that we learned in the previous times, that there's two people. One is on top of the mountain and the other is down at the bottom of the mountain, the valley, in the lowest place. They want to get together. There's two ways for them to get together. They can get together by the one who's on the bottom climbing up the mountain, or they can get together by the one who's up on top of the mountain climbing down the mountain. The difference between the two is in order to climb up the mountain. Not everyone can just climb up a mountain. There has to be certain conditions in order to be able to climb up the mountain. And those conditions are that you have to know the way up. If a person doesn't know the way, he'll get lost. He won't get up the mountain no matter how much he climbs. That's condition number one. Condition number two is that in addition to knowing the way up the mountain, a person has to have the strength to be able to get up the mountain. You can know the way and climb up, but if you don't have the strength, you'll get stuck in the middle. The third condition is that one has to be wearing the proper garments, the proper gear in order to climb a mountain. Number one, that the clothing that he's wearing now shouldn't disturb him in his climb. And number two, that there should be actually the right gear that actually help him go up the mountain. And in a similar fashion, when a person wants to climb up from the situation, the material existence that we're in, and we want to climb up and connect to spirituality, number one, we have to know the way. I have to know how to do it. Because if I'm going to do it limited in my material existence, then even if I'm going to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, but I'm learning them together with my ego and pride, together with the purposes and the reasons for which I'm doing it, which are either not for the right reason or even for the wrong reason, or doing it in the wrong way where it's still connected down here, then I'm not able to move up. My godly soul can't free itself and connect to spirituality because it's tied down with the material reasons and purpose of why I'm doing it. Number two is besides for knowing how to get there, which includes also knowing about Hashem, which inspires a person to actually have love and fear of Hashem in the mitzvahs that he's doing. In addition to that, in order to bring up also, in order to elevate the animal soul as well, and not leave it behind, one has to have the strength and the power for that. Otherwise, the godly soul goes up, but the animal soul gets left behind. It's stuck still down here. And the third idea is the garments. The garments is the expressions of the godly and animal soul, but specifically the animal soul down in this world. And the way it expresses itself is in thought, speech, and action. In addition to the chayas, the sustenance that's inside these garments, which means the love and fear of Hashem that comes, as we mentioned earlier, from the small paths, the understanding of godliness. In addition to that, there's the negative, the actual thought, speech, and action which were not the way they should be. How does a person get out of it? How does a person transform it? By totally leaving my existence, which comes through the realization of how distant The realization of my distance from Hashem brings me to a state of tears, which is, tears come when the mind and the heart are not able to contain the emotion and the feeling, the powerful feeling. It goes totally beyond it, which brings to tears, which that brings a person to be able to transform also the garments so that he should be able to get up the mountain. That's all going up a mountain. Coming down the mountain, the one who has to come down from on top, there's nothing that contains, doesn't need any special conditions in order to get down. Number one, it's easier to go down. But in addition to that, he is wise, he has the wisdom, he has the knowledge and understanding and the strength and the ability to go down, and doesn't need special garments in order to enable him to go down. Not only that, but even the one who's on the bottom doesn't need to wear special garments. He can be in the same clothing that he is now and still connects to the one that was on top. But because it came from on top, and because the one that's on the bottom doesn't have to change their garments, that means they didn't change themselves, so they didn't really become one with the higher level from on top. And now the Rebbe brings another idea and another analogy of a king that wants to connect to his people. Usually, the separation and distance between the king and the people is the greatest possible separation. The king is the king. He's on top. The people can't even come close to the king, and certainly not come in and see the king or have any connection to him. Sometimes there's a specific situation where there's an exception to the rule, and a person, a regular citizen, is able to go in and see the king. But it doesn't just happen just like that. There has to be a long time of preparations. There has to be appointments. He has to go from one place to the other until finally getting in one room within the other, until finally coming into the inner chamber and meeting with the king. And even then it's for a very short time. And it's in a manner that the fear and awe are just overwhelming. There's a second idea. Sometimes the king decides he wants to come out to the people. When the king comes out to the people wearing his crown, wearing his royal garments, everyone can see the king. But yet, it's once again with a distance. There's this great distance between the king and the people, although everyone can see him, but the people can't even open their mouths. They can't even have any way of connecting to the king. So although they can all enjoy and they can all be able to see the king, but the awe and the total way that they become nullified, that they become subdued from their existence by the fact that the king came out to them. If we can take it in an idea and an analogy which perhaps some of us can relate to more, when a person went in to see the Rebbe, a person went into Yechidus. Not everyone gets to go in. It's not every day that one gets to go in. There's a special occasion when a person can go into Yechidus. Before he goes in, there's months of preparation. There's all the preparations that are made from one step to the other, waiting, and finally he gets his moment. When he goes in, it's true, he can now speak to the Rebbe, he can hear from the Rebbe directly, something which has a connection to him personally, and yet it's with a total feeling of being overawed. When the Rebbe comes out to the people, comes out and says a sikha or a maimer, at that time it's a more general connection. It's not something which you have to be a special person in order to be able to get in. You don't have to prepare beforehand in that same manner to be able to get in. Everyone can see, everyone can be there, but yet it's not in a way where there's that personal connection. It's in a way where the people are overawed. Those are the two ideas. And if we could start that with the two concepts of Sfiras HaOmer and Yetzias Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. Sfiras HaOmer, we go step by step until we become closer on our own to connect to the king. But even that connection that we connect on our own is still in a way that it's true, it came from us. So the connection is stronger and it's a more personal one. but yet there's still the great distance between us and the king. There's still only a limited amount how much we can connect to spirituality as physical people that we are. Then there's the idea of Matan Torah, as well as Yitzias Mitzrayim. And like the Rebbe explains, that despite the fact that Yitzias Mitzrayim was totally from above, to pull the people out of their place of impurity, so it was a total revelation that came from above. In order to get to Matan Torah, there was a preparation of Sfiras Omer. But yet, compared to the great revelation of the giving of the Torah, when Hashem himself revealed his very essence upon the Jewish people, Sfiras Omer doesn't bring you to the level where you're able to actually internalize that connection. It still caused them to totally go out of their existence. And as we see that every time Hashem said a word, their souls left their bodies. They lost their existence, and they lost their limited existence, because a person can't contain such a great revelation of godliness, of the essence of Hashem, and still remain in his existence. So at that time Hashem revealed himself to everyone, but there wasn't the ability to be able to actually connect in a way that I remain in my existence. Then there's a third thing. And the third thing is the Torah and mitzvahs that we do after Matan Torah. And the example for that is when the king decides to go out wearing regular garments. And like Chassidus explains in general about the month of Elul, the king is he's not wearing his royal crown, he's not wearing his royal garments. Everyone knows that it's the king. They know it's the king because that's the fact, but there isn't the same awe. It's the same king from which they were so afraid just before. It's the same king that overawed them previously, in a sense that they weren't able to forge that connection with him. Both when they went and actually were able to have the personal connection, and when it was a more general connection. Both those things, whether it was from below, whether it was from above, but in both those ways, the person wasn't able to actually remain within who they are and still connect to the king. And yet now, when the king took off his crown and took off his royal garments, you don't feel that same awe. He mingles with the people and speaks with the people. Then everyone feels, despite the fact that they know it's the same king, they feel the ability to speak to him. They feel the ability to ask him for whatever they want and to connect to him in the most intimate way, despite the fact that this is the same king. If we can perhaps use this in an example, an analogy in our lives, it's the state that we are now, when the Rebbe is not wearing his crown and royal garments, so to speak. You don't feel that same awe. You don't feel that same feeling of totally leaving your existence. And yet you know it's the same king. And yet I can talk, I can ask for what I want. I don't feel like I'm not able to. And that idea is the Torah and mitzvahs that come after Matan Torah. Which means after that great revelation of Hashem by Matan Torah, which could only be for the time being, for a moment, then there's every time we learn Torah, we do mitzvahs, we're actually connecting to the essence of Hashem even more than by Matan Torah. Because it's the very essence of Hashem that's revealed. Not just the revelations of godliness as it was by Matan Torah, it's his essence that's in a Torah and a mitzvah. But when we do a mitzvah, we don't feel like we lose our existence. We don't feel like we're not able to remain in our existence. On the contrary, we're being involved in the physical world, in our own mundane world, and yet in this world that we're involved, we're doing a mitzvah with which we're connecting to the very essence of Hashem in a much deeper way than even when the king was revealed. However, after all of this, both ways and all the different manners of the king connecting to the people, whether it's above, whether it's from below, Even at the time when the king comes out and speaks to the people in a way that the people actually can feel the connection without losing their existence and losing their own personal identity and limitations, but it still remains in a way that it's two separate things. There's the king and there's the people. There's the mata, there's the physical, material, mundane world. There's the maila, there's the spiritual world. They're still separate things. We're still dealing with a light and a revelation and an energy that's separate. They haven't become one. You can go either from below or from above, but regardless of the fact, there's still two separate entities. There's the entity of the king, there's the entity of the people. There's the entity from below and the entity from above. Whereas in the time of Mashiach, la'asid lavai, then there'll be a new thing where it's able to go both together, and that, Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to continue to learn next time.